Romanticism is a pretty big movement in the first half of the 19th century. And it has effects outside of just thoughts, right? It's got effects in art, right? There's romantics that are painting dramatic scenes like Delacroix's Liberty Leading the People, which I think we mentioned earlier. And also Romanticism is very closely tied in with nationalism for some people, right? This idea that, they've got romantic notions about, reclaiming the lost glory of their people. And so many nationalists are, looking back at history and sort of trying to trace the glories of the Czech people over time and the glories of the Polish people over time and to sort of reclaim that lost past. So a question earlier this year was, to what degree is Romanticism a conservative movement? Right? That's actually a really tough question. Some romantics are conservative, right? Those that embrace religion certainly are conservative, looking back to tradition. Those that embrace, sort of the medieval components, right? They're looking back to some bygone era that seems to them better. But not all romantics are conservatives, and many romantics are just apolitical, right? They're not involved really in politics. They're artists. But they're not, even those that are apolitical, they're not necessarily resistant to change. And in fact, many nationalists want dramatic change, and they're inspired by romantic notions about what can be done, and the reclaiming this past glory. So, Positivism. And whereas Romanticism is the first half of the 19th century, throughout the century we've got new ideas that will be focused on science once again. Kant, for example, comes up with positivism. This is the idea that humans have progressed over time, and we're now in the positive stage of human history. So, what is this progression? Well, when we began, humans were in the theological stage. So, how did we make sense of the world? We made up gods, and we told these stories about these gods. And these gods did all sorts of things, and that was in the theological stage. And guess what? Those gods looked kind of like humans. Those gods, like the ancient Greeks and Romans, those gods acted, they were jealous, they acted strangely. Or even the God in the Old Testament, right, does strange things or acts wrathfully at times. And so Kant says that's way back when humans invented these tales in order to explain the world, because they couldn't make sense of it. Then, our next stage was the metaphysical stage. During this stage, humans are developing concepts, metaphysics, concepts like justice, or evil, or fairness, right? These metaphysical concepts that explain how human society should be structured, and therefore how humans should act. And so the metaphysical, he looks back to, sort of the ideas of Aristotle, right? And says that this is the origins of this metaphysical stage, in which we're not looking to gods to explain our reality, but now we're looking to these concepts. But now, Kant says we've entered this new era. And this is now the positive stage, or in other words, the scientific stage. And in this era, humans don't need to rely on these broad, unclear concepts. But humans now have science to make sense of the world and to make sense of how humans should structure their society. Okay, to make sense of how humans should structure human society. And so Comte argues that all of these sciences are being used to make sense of the world, and that there is a science of humanity that is the chief science. We need to study human beings in order to understand us, in order to understand how society should be structured, what laws should be put in place, how these different things, how leadership should be formulated, and the powers that government should have over people. And so he calls this science of humans sociology. Okay, this queen of sciences for him is the study of the human being, because this is the science that will ultimately be the most fruitful in creating a better human civilization. Studying ourselves will reveal how we can improve humanity. So, sociology, which is obviously a concept still around, right? If you go to university, you can major in sociology today, which is basically studying human behavior and how humans interact in groups and in different environments.